Now, the other film I saw from Studio Ghibli was a recent one. It's one that came out last year, I believe. It's called EARWIG and the Witch. Now, this movie has the particularity of being a 3D animated Studio Ghibli film, okay? Probably the first one, I would think. And it's directed by Gorõ Miyazaki, who, as we all know, has made a few films like Tales from Earthsea and others that haven't, reached the peak of, they're not really seen on the same level as anything Hayao Miyazaki has made, but they're pretty respected movies. I remember seeing a bit of Tales from Earthsea. I thought that was pretty good. I need to watch it properly, though. He's undoubtedly a talented, animator and storyteller, and I had my reservations about EARWIG and the Witch because I don't like the idea of of Studio Ghibli going down the Disney route and just abandoning 2D animation altogether and just kind of just turning everything into 3D animation. I think that would be a shame if Studio Ghibli was to go in that direction. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm always scared that it will happen, because I'm so sad that Disney gave up on their classic style of animation. It's still heartbreaking for me, I remember going to see even Princess and the Frog in the theater, and it was a breath of fresh air. I was like, you know what? I've been missing these kinds of movies. I wish Disney kept making them, but I know they're really expensive, and I know they've had a few failures, that kind of prevented them from making as much money as they could have made, and so what are you gonna do? I'm sure there'll be at some point there's gonna be kind of walk back to that kind of animation, but I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, to be honest. We're still kind of sticking in there with the Pixar kind of style of things, but which is not bad, but it's just I wish we had both, you know what I mean? I wish we had traditional kind of 2D animated films, big blockbusters, shown in theaters all the time, alongside kind of 3D alternatives, So EARWIG and the Witch has this particularity of being a 3D animated film. The story itself is it's about a witch, which again, I think maybe not the best idea for a theme, considering with Studio Ghibli, we've had a few films about witches at this point, and Studio Ponok, which is kind of an offshoot, an animator that went to create their own studio. And, that's the thing. One of the most famous Studio Ghibli films is Kiki's Delivery Service, which is a film about witches. It would have had to be a very original and unique story to tell, to make it really worthwhile. And EARWIG and the Witch definitely tries to, do something different, not just with the style of animation, but with the story itself. The story is about a girl who is a little girl called EARWIG, who is kind of left by her mother in an orphanage, and but the little girl loves the orphanage. She has a friend called Custard, I think. She has a good time. She loves the food there. She really tries whatever she can to make sure she doesn't get adopted by a family. And then this woman shows up, Bella Yaga, okay, who turns out to be a witch, and she adopts EARWIG. And EARWIG is like, all right, well, it'll be cool. She'll teach me magic. It's going to be fun. Turns out it's not exactly what she thought it was going to be. It's basically she becomes a slave of that woman. She just has to, she works constantly to help her make her potions. She has to go into that garden, pick out very specific kind of ingredients, and then keep coming back, smashing those ingredients. That's what she does all day long. And she's getting pissed off with that, because it's that's not what she signed up for. She was okay with it because she thought she was going to have a little bit more freedom and she was going to learn some stuff, but she doesn't, and that's pissing her off. So she's having to kind of kick in some manipulation in there. And I'll say this, the character of EARWIG is very fun. I really actually the character designs in general in this movie are really good. And I love the character design of EARWIG. She is such a brat, but she is such a phony as well. She's very good at pretending to be a nice little kid. But next second, she's got these eyebrows, kind of these huge, long, thin eyebrows. Well, you can tell when she's bullshitting and then when she's actually being herself, She is so manipulative. I love that character. I think she's great. But all the characters have a really cool design. There's a character called the Mandrake, who is kind of this demon dude who lives in the house with the witch. and he gets like these like little fairies to bring him, like little pixies or whatever, to bring him like traditional English breakfasts and stuff, like fish and chips and stuff like that. It's kind of English themed, the whole thing, you know. It's got a Harry Potter feel to it a little bit, but not too much. The English dub really goes down this Harry Potter route, and it really tries too hard to be a kind of a Harry Potter thing, and it's really annoying. If you want to see a successful version of that, watch Mary and the Witch's Flower, which is from Studio Ghibli, and it's actually a really good movie. Really, really good movie. It's actually better than this movie, I'll be honest. Mary and the Witch's Flower is really underrated. I would definitely recommend you check it out. It's a good movie. I've got a review of it on my website if you want to check it out. It's I was surprised by it. I thought it was just gonna be kind of a boring movie, but the animation is like stunning. Characters are likable. It's just a really good movie. I just had a really good time with it. And yeah, like I said, this movie has some likable characters. There's a black cat that talks, which really again feels like familiar ground, like too familiar. Like we've seen this before. There's a talking cat. The talking cat is like an integral part of Kiki's Delivery Service, you know, and it's done better in Kiki's Delivery Service, let's be honest. But it's still kind of cute in this movie, but it's like, I don't know, we've seen it, you know? And as for the story, I like the idea of, you know, it's got a good message to it. You know, the kid is very manipulative, but she finds out basically along the way that if she wants her life to be a certain way, she's going to have to work for it, you know? It's not going to be that easy, you know, even though she's been kind of dumped into this life, you know, that she didn't want, and she shouldn't have to work for it. The fact of the matter is she does have to work for it if she wants to get out of her really crappy situation, because she, at the moment, like when she's dumped into this new house, she can't leave the house. She's stuck in there. And the film that this movie reminds me the most of is actually not Kiki's Delivery Service. It's more Coraline. This is very much like Studio Ghibli meets Coraline, you know, and but again, Coraline is a better movie than this, and there's nothing really that wrong with this movie. I think it's got a good message, like I said. It's got a fun sense of humor. There's the whole kind of, turns out everyone's kind of in a rock band, like the Mandrake and stuff. It's kind of funny. I like it. Even the soundtrack is kind of a rock soundtrack, which is hit and miss. I'm not sure I like all of it. But it's cute. I like the idea of it, though. I think it's really good, and like the ending works really well. It's an okay movie, and honestly, I think people have been a bit harsh on it, because it is true that the 3D animation is just, it was not worth it. It was not a good idea. It's perfect. Like, it's perfectly serviceable 3D animation. Like, it looks good. It just doesn't look great. You know, it looks like mid-tier Pixar. You know, like Pixar movies, you know, around the time of WALL-E, maybe. Like, it looks, oh, maybe even before, a little bit before WALL-E. Not quite A Bug's Life, okay? But, like, it looks like, it doesn't even look like Toy Story 4, you know? Toy Story 4 looks way better than this movie. So it doesn't look as polished as it should be. The backgrounds and everything looks beautiful. I mean, Studio Ghibli, the art design, everything is fantastic. It's just... And the storytelling is very good. It's just a little bit light. You know, it's a little bit too light. It's too familiar. It's a lot of stuff we've seen before. It's a little bit, and the 3D animation is just, it feels like a distraction more than anything else. And I wish they had not done that. If the film had been in 2D, I think, in the more traditional style, with a more traditional score as well, I think this would have got an extra star easily, because this is a charming movie. It's a charming movie with great characters. It's funny. It is funny. Like, I enjoyed that movie. It's really good. There's like a whole scene where like EARWIG is like stealing a potion that the witch has kind of written down in her book, and then making it herself, and then the witch starts growing like extra arms and stuff. And I love the fact that the Mandrake sometimes just becomes the whole house. Like, his eyes are like burning through the wall. That's terrifying stuff. Great character, the Mandrake, as well. Another scene I really like is like the whole kind of attitude of EARWIG, especially in the like near the end, where she starts to get an idea of how she can manipulate these people. Like, when she goes for breakfast and the witch is like, make this bread pudding or whatever, like some English thing, and like a French toast type of deal. and then she makes it, and it's horrible. Like, she fucks it up. And then she sits down, and she's like happily just like eating. And then the mandrake is like, "What is this?" And the witch is like, "Why did you make it so bad?" And then and then Earwig is just like, "Well, you didn't teach me how to make it. You know, it's my first time making it. So there you go. This is my first time making this. Enjoy. Like, if you don't teach me anything, how am I gonna know?" Makes herself look very smart in front of the mandrake, and I don't know. It really that scene encapsulates what Earwig is about. And yeah, I enjoyed this movie. I don't think it's a bad movie. People have been trashing this movie, but it's not bad. Like, if people are saying this is a bad movie, it's like, no, you don't know what a bad movie is. Earwig and the Witch is a good movie. It's a charming little film. I would recommend watching it. It's just not quite as good as anything else that Studio Ghibli's put together. It's maybe better. Like, I would rather watch this movie than The Wind Rises. I'll say that. Okay, so I'll say that for Gorõ Miyazaki. If he wants to, you know, be in competition with his dad a little bit, I'll say that. One interesting thing I did notice is I wonder if Gorõ Miyazaki put some of his relationship with his father in this movie. You know, the idea that, you know, the witch is kind of like the creative one. You know, she's making all these potions and stuff. And then Gorõ just wants to learn from his father. Just like Earwig just wants to learn from that witch. You know, wants to know it, and then kind of rebels and does it himself, does it herself. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a parallel there. Where like Hayao Miyazaki is maybe like a mix of the mandrake and the witch type of thing. And this is actually all a way of Gorõ kind of like explaining how he came to be who he is in a way. So I don't know. This is one way you can interpret this movie. I certainly interpreted it that way a little bit. I don't know if it was intentional though. I'd like to ask Gorõ Miyazaki one day if I meet him if that was intentional, but that's probably not gonna happen. But yeah, I would recommend this movie. It's fun. It's a good movie. It's just not a great movie. Oh, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and hitting that little bell underneath. And if you're feeling particularly generous, go check out all the options available on my Patreon. You can have access to all my old videos and, you know, request stuff for me to review, like movies or games, you name it, whatever. So thank you for watching, and hopefully see you next time. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah.